that isn't where your journey ended. You continued to work to develop and understand homocystinuria. Tell me about the B12, your efforts to understand the interaction of B12 and where that led the broadening of the effects of homocystinuria across what we know today as other treatments associated with the disease.
Well, because I knew about homocystinuria, and because I was already aware of the fact that in homocystinuria you got two major metabolic findings. One was an elevation of homocysteine, the other was the elevation of methionine. Right. So a few years after this 1967 discovery of the newborn, it was, I think, about early 1970, 71, 72, there was a baby admitted to the Massachusetts General Hospital at 3 weeks of age with respiratory distress. And they couldn't figure out where it was coming from. So they sent a urine to the laboratory. I got it, and I looked at it, and others looked at the results. And sure enough, in the blood and the urine, by quantitative analysis on what we call the amino acid analyzer, which is a much better method of looking at these things than the paper chromatogram, there was this huge elevation of methionine, of homocysteine, and there was no detectable methionine. And I knew of Dr. Mudd and his work at the NIH, so I called, introduced myself, and I said, I'm puzzled. He says, give me some time and I'll call you back. Let me think about it. Oh, I don't know, an hour later or something, I get the phone rings again. I pick it up, and it was Dr. Mudd, and he says, yeah, I've thought about it. He says, have you measured methylmalonic acid in the urine? And methylmalonic acid, I knew, because I knew that from newborn screening, was a different disease. Methylmalonic aciduria, we were screening for it, right. We knew about it. Well, I did, and called him the next day, and I said, lo and behold, he's got this very large amount of methylmalonic acid. So here was homocysteine elevation, methylmalonic acid, but no methionine. And I'm still puzzled. He said the other reason is that vitamin B12 in the body does not act as vitamin B12. Vitamin B12 must be broken into two forms. And he says, it's been this vitamin B12 metabolic defects have been discovered in animals, but never in a human. And so one thing led to another. We did some further testing on the baby. He did some testing, and Dr. Eulendorf, that he was working with at NIH, did some further testing. And sure enough, it turns out this was the first human disease of vitamin B12 metabolic defect. And it turns out that this was what we now know is the cobalamin defects, or the methionine remethylation defects, and there are a number. This was the original case of cobalamin C, which is the most common of the cobalamin defects. So this expanded enormously our understanding of homocystinuria. It's not just one disease. I mean, homocystinuria can be a feature of many different diseases.
Interesting. So Dr. Levy and Dr. Mudd, really the pioneers in the discovery of the cobalamin, Cobalamin C.
Yeah,
amazing.
We were co-discoverers. Yep.
Amazing.